Hi everyone, and welcome to Matt's Minutes edition for January of 2018. Yes, that's right, 2018. For those of you that have been around for a few decades at least, you may remember a movie, I think it was from the 80s, called Back to the Future. And this popped in my mind this morning when I was making notes for this video. And to give you some perspective, I believe the future in that movie was the year 2016. So it's hard to believe we're 2 years beyond that. But here we are. And actually there's been a lot of changes economically since our last video winding down the year 2017. Right after we released that video, tax reform actually was passed. Effectively, there's a few main key points to that. One, standard deduction, for example, a married couple filing jointly goes from 12 grand up to 24 grand. You no longer can do recharacterizations if you did an IRA to Roth conversion and then later the following year you want to undo it for income or for whatever purpose. That's something that they did remove from the tax code. Doesn't mean you cannot do IRA to Roth conversions, but once you do them, they're permanent. There is lower corporate tax rates. There's lower individual tax rates. And then the repatriation section, which means a U.S. business who operates overseas can now bring a lot of their cash back to the U.S. at a much lower tax rate than has been historically normal. I read a report just last night that Apple, for example, is bringing $200 billion of cash back that's sitting overseas because they can pay a much lower tax rate to bring it back into the U.S. and reinvest it in our economy. So all of that said, these near-term things are going to be short-term, meaning in the next 1, 2, and 3 years, very likely perceived as economic stimulus. So it actually will be received well by the market. And so basically, if we're talking about tax reform and we're talking about your money in the economy, those are perceived very well. And so we think that will lead into a continued growing economy. Gross domestic product continues to do well and actually increase. Corporate earnings are still growing and accelerating, so year over year, quarter over quarter. And then you add in tax reform to that, and that's a really good formula for positive economic results. So I would say from Richmond Brothers' standpoint relative to your portfolios, we are still expecting a decent year economic-wise in 2018. That said, we're 10 years away from the last recession, and so we're in a very mature portion of the economic cycle. And I think it is very possible, we think it's very possible, that at some point this year, the market dips back maybe 10% or more from its highs, which is a correction. Correction does not mean we're tipping over into recession, so at some point, I would expect that. I think the probability is high. Is it guaranteed that that has to happen? No, but it's more likely than not in our opinion. So we do think there'll be growth this year. We do think it's going to happen, but it's not going to be in a straight line. You could see acceleration, for example, January, February, March, all the way into June. Then if you saw a correction and the market came back, but then kept growing, you still look at the course of the year, and if you charted that, you're still going to be positive. So be aware of that. And then one of the things that tells me that we're thinking as an advisor pessimistically to be cautiously optimistic. The reason I bring that up is we're starting to get calls and emails from individuals, some clients who probably watch this video, asking us if we are invested aggressively enough. When someone starts to ask that and you start to sense this euphoric state from people, generally that doesn't mean we're at the top, but it means we're near the top. And that's the point where we start coming up with strategies maybe over the next year, year and a half, 2 years to try to get more conservative and maybe pull back. We're not looking to do that necessarily in 2018, but just wanted to be aware of what we see on the horizon. For those of you that are in the Jackson and surrounding areas, coming up in the month of March, we are going to host our State of Your Money seminar over at Ellis Sharp. So be on the lookout for those invitations, and we'd love to see you all over there. The room has a capacity of 200, and it does often quite sell out and get filled up, and that's where David and I will come present and let you know our thoughts as we wound down 2017 and into 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you listening to Matt's Minutes. For those of you that we work for, we appreciate having the opportunity to work for you. Those of you that are watching this, if you have any other questions or would like a free consultation, please feel free to reach out to our office. Questions@richmondbrothers.com. Thank you, and make it a great day.